Shalom, family. I'm glad all of you are here. I had myself on mute, and that was on purpose. There were things I was doing in the background that would have made a lot of noise, so I muted myself. Shalom, family. How you doing, LVZ? You know, I got an email from a white supremacist, y'all, talking about our parenting skills. So I'm going to address this. Since he went there, I'm going there now. Okay? I'm going to go there. So, y'all just sit back and just enjoy my rant. Okay? Now, this fool is going to come and call our children criminals, and we don't know how to raise kids. Now, let me just take y'all back through some history. Who raised their kids during chattel slavery? Who raised their children during the Reconstruction and all through Jim Crow? Even up to this very day, I went in the supermarket last summer and I saw a Black woman with 3 white children. And she was going through the supermarket with them and pointing at the signs and telling them what the signs say. So we are still raising and educating their children. They don't need to open their mouth and say a damn thing about Black children. So look, those of you that are very sensitive and you don't want to hear me say cuss words, I suggest you leave now. Don't be in here to complain about how I talk. So this is your window out. Ladies and gentlemen, these folks didn't even raise their own children. How do you have a history of not raising your own goddamn children, but you think you are the ones to give us parenting advice? No, Black children don't need to be paddled. Why don't you paddle them opioid addicts that you got all up and down in your community? Y'all got a bad drug problem going on in the white community. Get the paddle out and go beat them. Many of them are teens that steal opioids from their parents. I did videos talking about the drug parties they have. And what they do is they go in their medicine cabinet and steal their parents' drugs, and then they go have drug parties, y'all. Go paddle them. You got plenty of people in your community to paddle. And who's raising all of these mass murderers, these mass shooters out here? Who raised them? No, see, you want the schools open because you done got sick of your own children. You can't stand them being at home with you. So now you're trying to force all parents across the country to get their kids out the house. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. Maybe there are some parents that are so fed up with racism in the schools, they don't want their kids going back with yours. Okay? And what about the lice infestation that has broken out in your household since the lockdown? I did stories on that. Your kids are getting lice and then they're passing it on to the parents, and everybody in the house got a lice infestation on their head. Okay, you got bigger fish to fry. You don't need to be sitting around worrying about Black children. Let Black parents worry about Black children. After all, we the ones that raise your kids and our kids. We got that history. You don't have that history, but we certainly do. And who the hell would want Karen and Brad up in these public schools to give them advice on raising kids? And you treat our kids like crap when you think we're not around and not watching. We know how you're treating our children. We don't need your parental advice. Whatever problems we're having with our kids, Black parents will handle that. The majority of Black parents are damn good parents, by the way. If we weren't good parents, then why would you let us be the wet nurse to your children and raise your children, and we fed your children, and we put clothes on the backs of your children, and we taught your children. So how the hell do we go from that to being bad parents if you don't go sit your trifling, high IQ, know nothing ass down? One thing we don't need from you historically is parental advice. Maybe you need some. The way things are looking, it seems like as soon as the lockdown went away across the country, the mass shootings started. And who were the majority of those mass shooters? Who raised them? The hell out of here. No, you never let them get away with talking bad about our children. And look at the condition their kids are in. And let me not touch on the lack of babies you got going on. And that happened long before the pandemic. There's hardly no babies coming out of your community. You got a lot of nerve telling somebody about what to do with their kids. I would strongly, after looking at how our kids are being treated in these videos, I would strongly advise my Black community, when they try to give us parental advice, tune these people out. They don't have a leg to stand on at all. Who raised your monsters? You got a lot of nerve. And no, we don't have to take that mess at all. Every time you turn around, there's a new video out with them trying to psychologically destroy our children. But they got parental advice for us. Please. Look, you know why our children are doing better with virtual class than in person? Because they're not dealing with a group of racist white children that get their racism taught to the, by their parents. And they're not dealing with Karen and Brad being race soldiers in the class to our children. That's why they're doing so much better. And I'm glad to see the articles out here of Black parents being very hesitant about sending their kids back to school. I'm glad to see that. And that's exactly how it should be. If they want to send their kids, let them have at it. Who the hell is going to stop them? But our kids, you don't have to do anything, especially if you're not sending them back to a Black school or in a situation where they are being taught by our own. How you doing, Tareen? And I'm just sick of that. That's all I'm saying. I'm sick of them always trying to poke their nose where it don't belong. And the problem is, the reason why they keep doing this is because they see us still as their slave. And they can do and say whatever they want. Oh, yeah. You're right. The L1 LVZ. We saw it all last year and this year. Every time you turn around, there was a new story of these teachers getting caught being racist on a Zoom class or some kind of virtual software class they were using. And the parents were catching them red-handed. And those stories were coming out almost every single week. So you can't even say it's an isolated incident. It's not isolated. It's not. These are they don't know one thing about them. They don't know how to turn the racism off. So when they get on those virtual classes, it's like they think they're still in those classes without the parents being there. And many of the parents are there watching and listening. And, and they have stepped it up, I guess, because it was almost a year without them being around our children. They're now trying to step up the psychological damage. But like I said, If you're on top of your game, you undo whatever they attempt to do to your child. And trust me, it does work. It does work. That's what my parents did with me. They did not, if I was called anything derogatory, it didn't go unanswered. And that's how you got to be. And keep that line of communication open. Because even with that last video I did with the 11th grader that had an object thrown at him over a conversation about LeBron James' tweet that he put out about the cops, and the teacher was going all ballistic on him and threw some mess at him, he didn't tell his mother. His mother found out because she went online and found the video. So you got to keep that line of communication going if your kids are leaving your house every day. Don't be in a position where you don't know what's going on. You're going to have to stay on top of things twice as hard when our kids are not with us. You should all, and you do pop-up video, not videos, but pop-up visits up at the school if you're going to send them back. Randomly pop up and see what's going on. You have the right to do that. Look, I'm not telling you nothing that I myself didn't do. I homeschooled my son. And I homeschooled him after I got into a big argument with one of his teachers during a parent-teacher conference. And I knew right then and there that was not the place for my son to be. And I took action, and I took him out of the school and started educating him myself. And even if you work, I worked a full-time job back then. And I came home in the evening and I educated him. That's how I did it. So don't tell me because Black parents are working or you're outside the home for one reason or another that it can't be done. It most certainly can be done. So you got to think about what you want to do with your children. Either you're going to let Karen continue to educate her and you're content with that, or you're going to make sure they get the education that you want them to have. And think about it. Look at the garbage they teach. When I was in school, y'all, you know what? When we started learning American history, they were still teaching that George Washington never told a lie. George Washington chopped down the cherry tree. I was like, this is stupid. First of all, how is that going to help your Black child in life? And what George Washington, y'all tell lies every second of every minute of every day. But I'm supposed to believe George Washington that looked just like the rest of y'all didn't tell a lie? Are you for real? I don't believe that. And then I got taught slavery was only in the South. It was not in the North. And then it wasn't until I was probably close to middle school, I found out all of that was lies. Slavery was up here too. In fact, more than 50% of the population in New York had a slave in their house. There are slave cemeteries in New Jersey. Auctions took place of slaves in Camden, New Jersey. Look at many of these historic Black areas. Camden is heavily Black. And those people are the direct offspring of the ones that were auctioned in that area. And many of them don't even realize it, but that's what they are. There are a lot of things we can control, y'all. And the education that our kids get is one of those things we can control. But yeah, I mean, I still remember many of the lies that were taught to me in, in these schools. I remember all that mess. And I was like, oh, okay. So by the time I got to high school, I was like, I don't even have enough life knowledge to be out here based on what I learned in school. I didn't. You know, it wasn't until I learned how to balance a checkbook, make my own deposits, and pay bills, and know how to manage a household. To me, that was the knowledge they should have been teaching. Even, I know they have home ec, even home ec, that was very limited in what they teach you how to cook. It was not really, because I had white teachers, it was really not the food that Black people normally would eat. You know what we learned how to make, y'all? Quiche. Quiche. We learned how to make biscuits. We learned how to make, just a limited amount of things. But those were not the kind of things that Black people ate. So I didn't even think that was a good education at all. Thank you, Loveline, for the super sticker. For me, it wasn't. You know, to me, we should have been learning bankings, how to get loans, how you qualify for a loan, how to maintain good credit. To me, that's the kind of stuff that should have been taught. Y'all, I went all the way up through high school. When I left, I was doing trigonometry. But what good is trigonometry is out in this economy? I don't use it. I was taught it, but I don't use it. I don't care if it's, oh, wait, you made it all the way up to that. Yes, I did. And what good did it do me? I can't use trigonometry if I walk in Rite Aid or Wells Fargo. I don't need trigonometry. So, I mean, look, I don't want stuff I don't need. That's the bottom line. See, they always make you feel like it's such a big deal. Well, because I had, most of my friends, they were still in pretty much basic math class, but I had made it all the way up to trigonometry. But what good is it doing me? It's not doing me any good. I don't need that. Do I need trigonometry when I walk in the grocery store? Or if I'm going out just to get dinner or so, I don't need no trigonometry. Okay? The majority of the stuff our children are getting is complete BS. You don't need it. Yeah, but Darlene X, you don't even need algebra out here to make it. Okay? You ain't going to go to Bank of America and use algebra there. I'm just telling you, you're not. And I used to always believe scientists had to have X amount of knowledge until I worked for Bristol Myers Squibb, y'all. And when I went to work around those scientists, because I worked in IT. So if anything went wrong with the server over there, I would have to go over there and fix it. And that's when I used to be in the lab and I would see the rhesus monkeys and the dogs and cats they would experiment on. Well, come to find out, the calculations that they need to make medicines or make certain ingredients, all that calculation is done by the damn Macs they were using. All they did was just punch in numbers and the software figured out how much of each ingredients they needed to put into a pill. They didn't even do the thinking and calculating themselves. Okay, do you hear me? They weren't even doing it themselves. And that astonished me. I always thought they did those things themselves. They don't. They don't. The computer does everything. But they'll tell you, you need this amount of math and this amount of this and that in order to be a scientist. It's BS. It's complete BS, y'all, because I was in those labs. and saw it firsthand. And even a couple of the scientists would tell me, "Oh, we don't do this ourselves. We just punch in XYZ on the computer and the computer figures out everything." And I said, "Okay, so if the computer figures out everything, and let's say you make the pill, give it to a rhesus monkey and it dies, then what do you do?" "Oh, well, we just go back to the computer and put it in a different way." But they're telling you in order to get in college, you need to know XYZ. I'm just telling you, it's all BS. You know, and I'm glad you wrote that, Cassandra, that those degrees are fraudulent. Let me tell you something, y'all. And this is something I learned even homeschooling my son. And this is the truth. Even if your kids are getting all A's and they're making the honor roll, do you realize they are still being undereducated? They are. They're still being undereducated. They're still getting taught. They're just better at remembering and reading a textbook with lies in it and getting an A. But technically, even with A's and B's, your kid is still undereducated. And that's the truth. None of our kids are where they should be. None of them. And also think about this. Sometimes Karen don't like your child and will purposely give them a bad grade. I remember even when I was in school, a couple of these teachers lied on my friends that got in trouble. They'll lie to Black parents about their own children. I've seen that too. And one of my friends, I even had to tell her mother an incident that really happened. The teacher lied, completely lied about the whole thing. And her mother called me to get her side of the story. And I had to tell her the teacher did not tell the truth. The teacher lied to her about her own daughter. They will do that and make you think your kid did something wrong when they didn't. That's not done just in policing. It's done up in these schools too. Yes. I was always ahead, Ellie, L. Brown. I was always ahead in math because my father was a big math whiz and he was able to pass it down to myself and my brother. So we always did exceptional in math. But even with the math they gave us, technically, we were still behind. We were not where we should have been. You're still lagging behind. So, no, don't ever let these people get away with giving us a lesson on how to raise kids. And we got a history of raising their kids. Never forget that. It's just like when they tell you Black people don't know agriculture. Well, who the fuck did the agriculture during chattel slavery? They sure didn't do it. So, how did we go from knowing it to not knowing it at all? Or knowing how to parent their kids to not knowing how to parent ours? Get out of here. Don't you ever believe that. Thank you, the homeless advocate, for the super sticker. Don't believe their hype. And when they come complaining about our young, you tell them to attend to their opioid addicts. That's how you do it. The hell with that. Don't come over here to tell us nothing. Whatever problems we have, that's between us and our families. Has nothing to do with anybody from a different community. Stay in your lane. Oh, yeah. Look, even when I was on jobs, I can't tell you the countless white people I trained on my job. And many of them, a couple of them had to leave because they couldn't catch on to what I was telling them. And that a lot of that has to do with them trying to put themselves into positions that they're not qualified for. But what they'll do is they'll try to sit them down with somebody that's qualified to train them, and they have no experience or no training in, let's say, maintaining a server, but they want to miraculously show up on a job and get the big pay and the task of doing such big administrative things that they're not qualified for. That's why they leave. They don't know. They don't know the tech language or anything, but they're supposed to be trained as they do that a lot. And y'all can't tell me you did not train some of these people on jobs and you knew instantly they weren't qualified for what they got hired for. They're notorious for doing that when it comes down to their own. Thank you, The Only Lioness, for the super sticker. Many of you have gone through that. I know I did. They'll come in the door getting a bigger position than you, and they have no experience in the area they got hired for. None. And another thing, they are notorious for lying about things on their resume. That's a big thing they do within their community too. That's huge. I would look at resumes, y'all, and some of the people went to Harvard and Yale, and they would have all kinds of mistakes and typos on their resume. I'm not kidding you at all. They went to an Ivy League school and still can't spell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times you have to train your own boss, and they'll still climb the ladder and you're still sitting in the same position. They done all kinds of crap to us in the workplace. All kinds of crap. Or they'll try to pretend like they're better than you on the job, but when things go wrong and they can't figure it out, guess who they got to come back to? The black person on the job. I used to get a kick out of that. They'll try their hardest not to come to us for nothing. And then when they get stuck in a rut, guess who they come back to? The very person they're trying to avoid getting answers from. It is just hilarious. I mean, seriously, it is absolutely hilarious. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Misfits 1989, for the super sticker. Thank you, Mentu Hotef II, for the super sticker. Oh yeah, they always cheat. That's why I'm saying they lie on resumes. That's a form of cheating to get a job that you're not even eligible for. They do that all the time. I'll never forget. I had one that said she was she had a lot of experience in PowerPoint. So what I did was I gave her an assignment and I told her to put it on PowerPoint. She couldn't figure out what to do. And I said, she lied on her resume, claiming she had experience she didn't have. She couldn't even do the PowerPoint. And then at one time I was helping one of the secretaries, and this was a white woman. She was a secretary to one of the they had a couple of vice presidents, and she was one of the secretaries to a vice president. And something happened to her computer. It was the way she was booting it up. She was screwing everything up. So I was able to fix the problem. And this is what she said to me. She said, I have to do a letter for my boss. And I'm just standing there looking at her. Thank you, Malik Omar. And I'm standing there looking at her, and she said, can you do the letter for me and I turn it into my boss? And I said, no, I have to go around the company to make sure everybody's computer is working, make sure the server is staying up. And I was a manager of 24 people. I'm not going to sit and do your job. And you know what she said back to me? Well, if you don't do it, then my boss is going to know I don't know how to do nothing. That's not my problem. Then what are you doing here if you don't know how to do anything? But that's how she was surviving, by conning people to do her work for her and turning it into her boss like she was the one that did it. Thank you, Mr. Mystical Black Realms, for the super sticker. But yeah, she actually thought I was going to type a letter that she was supposed to do for her boss. Give her the letter so she can send it to him in an email. And I practically laughed in her face. I did not ask a living soul in that company to get up and do my job, but I'm going to do yours. Yeah, that's just another example of somebody that had a job and wasn't even qualified to do the job. Unbelievable. Amaria said, I worked as an emergency room technician and ran circles around the white folks who couldn't do 1/10 of the skills I had. And the nurses always had me work with them because I was good. You damn right you were good. You damn right. You damn right. I know we're very good at our jobs. And I used to work with a black man. His name was Kevin. Kevin knew servers like the back of his hand. There was not a server in the entire company he couldn't fix or get back up and running. But guess what? He was not the manager. They had some white man that was a manager that he knew far less than Kevin. Far less than he did. I don't care. Kevin, if nobody else could get the server up and running, Kevin would walk in the room and get it back up and running in less than 5 minutes. Saw him do that multiple times, but he was not the boss. Somebody that knew far less than him was his boss. John T. Harden, thank you so much. I am so grateful we live in the age where these demons are getting exposed. Exactly. Yeah, this is definitely the time of revelation, for real. But these are the things that have been happening to us all along. Look, isn't it them that had to create unions after slavery was over because they weren't qualified for none of the jobs? And that was their way of shutting the former enslaved from getting the good jobs. Okay, so they've always used all kinds of trickeries to get jobs over us. Even if we had way better skills than them, they would still pick them by default and have us work under them, showing them everything. It just gets tiring after a while. Oh yeah, and don't let them be smokers. They'll spend more time outside smoking than sitting at their desk doing their work. Okay, don't let them be a smoker, because their asses will be out there all day puffing on them cigarettes, and work ain't hardly getting done. Thank you, Joseph Washington, for the super sticker. Thank you. Oh yeah, yeah. Yvette, I'm glad you brought that up because that is a big thing. Oh, don't forget, you had to have a diploma, then raise the bar to college degree to continue to, yeah, and they continued to shut us out. They did, you know, and that's a big thing. I want you all to take notice. Thank you, Black Mama, for the super chat. My program director got 10K for extra duties. She tried to get me to do it. I refused, and school district tried to bully me to do it. I didn't budge. Good for you. She got overwhelmed and quit. Guess who got the 10K extra? You go, girl, Black Mama. You go, girl. Thank you, Loveline, for the super chat. Yeah. Back to you, Yvette. Let me tell you, that's one big thing they do when Black men and women, because by the time you graduate from college, you are an adult. What they do is they try to shut us out of the industry, and white men and women that graduate from college, they get those positions with no experience. And what they'll do is they won't hire Black college graduates. So they're getting all the experience, and your Black college son and daughter got to look for alternative things to do that they didn't even major in. That's a big thing. They've been doing that forever. So by the time they're able to land a job, they're going in with no experience. And the same white student that graduated with them now got years of experience under their belt. And your son and daughter that went to school don't have that. Okay. And that's done deliberately so that their kids can gain the experience and advantage over your children. That's what they do. That has happened to so many people I know. People with PhDs and master's degrees got out of school and can't even get a job in what they majored in. But the white students coming out with no experience, they're getting those jobs immediately. Yeah, Cassandra, it happens a lot. It really does. And it's done on purpose. That was even going on when I was young, and they never stopped doing it. They're still doing it to this very day. And who's struggling? You're right, Donna. Those student loans. Who's struggling to pay the student loans the worst? Black college graduates. Whatever job you're able to land, it's not enough for you to pay off the student loan and pay your bills and pay your rent. They're doing this to you on purpose. I was kind of fortunate. My mother actually paid off my loan. She was during the time I was in college, she was working a part-time job. But see, my mother didn't technically have to work. Many of the years she didn't work, my dad was taking care of the whole family. And he always gave my mother, he's just like a lot of married people, he always gave my mother money. And so she had accumulated so much during that time when I was in school. When I got out, she just paid off my student loan. She didn't want that hanging over my head. And I was just starting out here in the workforce. So I was lucky to have that. But I know that is not the case with everybody. There's a lot of people struggling. Liquid J Funk, thank you so much for the super chat. They do the same thing to us in the UK. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, these folks in the US and the ones in the UK, they're really not that very different from each other. They're exactly the same people, technically. They demand vendor certifications such as Cisco, CNNA, and CCNP, etc. Yeah, I actually had a CCNA when I was working in IT. I had one. You know, Yeah, they have all those requirements, but I mean, even when you look at their qualifications, a lot of the stuff they put on these description on these job openings, you don't even do half of that stuff when you're on the job, but they got it on there. And that's another thing they do, you know? And one thing I do agree with some of the politicians that spoke about this, Joe Biden really do need to forgive student loans in this country, especially now that we are living in the day and age of COVID. That stuff should be forgiven. Many of these college grads never even had an opportunity to work because of COVID. And that being said, if you don't have a job or you're laid off, and I was looking at some articles where people did land jobs out of college, but they lost their job when everything went into lockdown. And they really need to forgive that, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Jerome Simmons. Lisa, I love you and all the new Black media. You are helping me navigate this racist anti-Black cesspool called America. Be one. Thank you. Thank you so much for that super chat. No, it needs to be forgiven. I mean, what are people going to do if they don't have a job, or they're underemployed and they're just not making the money because of the lockdown? Then, the only right thing to do is to forgive those loans. So, Shabbat Shalom to you, Charjay. Yes, forgive student loans. It is just another strategy to keep us down. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the student loan, the whole system needs to go. And look, the whole system is usury. You borrow a certain amount of money and then you got to pay almost double that back. The whole system is usury. And it's with everything. It's with mortgages, it's with student loans, it's with business loans. The whole thing is usury. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and it's designed for you to stay in debt. And that's another thing I hate about the system. They got it set up for you to constantly be kept in debt. And even look at housing. Even if you pay off your mortgage, they keep hanging the property taxes over your head. Do you know in most countries around the world, once you pay your house off, that's it. You don't have to pay nothing else. But here in America, they keep you paying those property taxes over and over and over every year to keep money coming out. And if you miss payments, they try to foreclose on your home. So technically, you really never truly own it. And that's another system, another example of usury. That's all it is. Their whole system sucks. It needs to go. Think about this. When the ancients were here, when our forefathers were here on the land, nobody had a mortgage. Nobody had the police. Nobody had their teachers. Nobody had no property taxes and all that mess. And those folks survived just fine. They brought this crap over with them. And look at the condition it's in. It's in horrible condition. They done put the world in a bad condition because of their system. It's not a good system. And don't let them try to tell you it is. It isn't. Well, the property taxes are designed to go up every year. That's why you might have been paying property taxes for the year, $300-400 years ago. Now you're probably paying $1,400 every quarter. I'm serious. You're probably paying that or even more. You know, I knew this one wealthy Black man, and his family owned a couple of Burger Kings. That's where they got their wealth from. They had a bunch of Burger Kings. Well, anyway, he had a mansion built. And I remember, you know, we went over there. He showed me around. Beautiful, beautiful mansion. And guess what his property taxes were? $40,000. That's what he was paying. 40,000. I was like, that is crazy. But this is what their system does. Even when you have wealth, the property taxes are outrageous. But, you know, look, you just think about it. Look at all the money they get through people making loan payments, people paying off homes, people paying for private school, people paying for property taxes and stuff. But then as soon as we say the word reparations, all of a sudden there is no money. Okay. All of a sudden out of the blue, there's no money, but we're paying a fortune into this country, this ungrateful country that treats us like crap, and we're paying so much money to be here. But if you say reparations, there's no money. But if the Asians are crying, all of a sudden they got money everywhere. They got money coming out of their ass and ears. You know, and now you got Joe Biden, Kamala, Tim Scott telling us this is not a racist country, you know. And the sad part is when their term comes to an end in 4 years and they got to go up for re-election again, there's going to be plenty of Negroes out here voting for them again. That's the sick part. You know, if you wanted to do something, this is the time to teach them a lesson. Seriously, this is the time to teach them a lesson. And you let them know long before the 4 years are up, you ain't getting our vote. As long as you gonna still, sit your ass there and keep lying about our situation in America, no, you won't get our votes. That's what you do to them. That's what you do. But unfortunately, we got some sorry behind Negroes that are going to go to the polls and put them back in office when they don't even deserve it. There is no one that's going to cut your throat quicker than a politician. You can best believe that. All right, y'all, I'm going to cut this short because I could go on and on. I'm so fired up. I could go on, but I'm not going to do that. So, and plus I got another live stream at 3:00 for those of you that join us for Bible study. So everybody, I just needed to rant a little bit this morning after getting an email from a white supremacist talking shit about Black children. I had to get this out. So y'all, please enjoy the rest of your day. And I just want to say I love my family, and I'm grateful that all of you came here to join me today for my rant. So wherever you are, please enjoy the rest of your day, family. And I'll probably do a couple of live streams next week. I'll try to incorporate that with my videos next week. So everybody, shalom.